I welcome everyone to this session today, and thank you so much for joining. I am Ivona Alfred, and I'll be your technical host today. This webinar is a technical session on lessons learned from Jakarta's public transport integration, the second event in the Mobilize Jakarta virtual series. Mobilize is ITDP's special annual programming that celebrates the Sustainable Transport Award winner and highlights the city's outstanding achievements in sustainable urban mobility. So before we begin the actual programming, I just have a few technical notes here. Before we begin, the session is being recorded, and we'll actually offer a rebroadcast of this event at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It will be available on our YouTube channel. For this session, we're also offering English and Bahasa Indonesia simultaneous interpretations. So you can actually easily access the language channel of your preference. All you need to do is to click the globe icon at the bottom of your desktop screen and select English or Bahasa Indonesia. So at any point you can actually do that. And also on the mobile, you can use the more button. So that's with the 3 dots, and you can select also the language interpretation. Today's event will be moderated discussion, and we will open up for a short Q&A with the audience at the end. So please, at any point, you can submit your questions for the panelists in the Q&A space. That's on the bottom panel of your Zoom screen. But you can also use the chat box for comments or interactions. So without further ado, I would like to welcome again everyone to this special Mobilize technical session on Jakarta's public transport integration. To kick us off, I would like to introduce you to Chandra Sugarda, who is today's moderator. Chandra is a gender, disability, and social inclusion specialist based in Jakarta. And she will lead us through the background information on Jakarta's winning the STA and the introductions of the panelists. Before the moderated discussion, the panelists will also give a brief framing on the work of their departments in facilitating this, transport integration. So Chandra, I'll hand it off to you, and I'll just turn off my screen right now.
Well, thank you, Iwona. And good evening, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, joining from Indonesia and other southern part countries. Also, good morning to those of you joining us from the US and the western part of the world. Welcome to the Technicals webinar of Mobilize Jakarta 2021. This event will highlight the power, the potential, and the pitfalls of integration by learning from experience of the Jakarta's public transport integration, namely the Jaklingko, and its journey from policy to implementation. This webinar is part of the 2021 Mobilize Jakarta Summit series that focuses on Jakarta's progress towards sustainable transportation. Mobilize is an annual sustainable transport summit of the Institute of Transportation and Development Policy, or ITDP, that brings together urban transport and development practitioners alongside world-class researchers to celebrate best practices and accelerate the implementation of sustainable transport projects. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this year, Jakarta was crowned as the Sustainable Transport Award winner for its effort to integrate the public transport system through the Jaklingko scheme. It is a transportation integration scheme that incorporates routes, management, infrastructure, and fare system. And it involved not only the large, medium, and small Transjakarta buses, but also rail-based transportation owned by the Jakarta provincial government, such as MRT and LRT. Soon, it will also integrate it with state-owned commuter trains. The Jaklingko integration scheme aimed to provide seamless mobility between available modes of transportation. The intermodal integration program started with physical integration projects at 5 major transit stations between 2020 and 2021. It is worth to note that one of the biggest transit hubs, the CSW, connects Transjakarta and MRT Jakarta through a single gate and provides better overall transfer facilities for passengers. Ladies and gentlemen, our discussion will delve deeper into lessons learned from the Jaklingko experience, and 3 distinguished speakers have joined me for that discussion. The first speaker is Ibu Sri Hayati, Assistant to the Provincial Secretary for Economy and Finance. She was the head of Food Security and Counseling at the Department of Marine Affairs, Agriculture and Food Security in 2014. And in 2016, she became the head of DKI Jakarta's Bureau of Economic and Finance Affairs. Ibu Sri earned her bachelor and master's degree from the Bogor Agricultural Institute, Indonesia. Our second speaker is Bapak Yoga Adiwinarto, Director of Engineering and Facilities of PT Transportasi Jakarta, who was responsible for the construction and infrastructure design of the world's longest BRT system since 2019. Prior to that, he worked as ITDP Indonesia's Director of Southeast Asia. Bapak Yoga earned his bachelor degree from the Bandung Institute of Technology, Indonesia, and his master's degree in transport planning from the University of Leeds, England. And our third speaker is Bapak William Sabandar, President Director of PT MRT Jakarta. He is currently responsible for constructing and operating the first metro system in Indonesia. Prior to this assignment, he was the Director of Corporate Affairs of the ASEAN Secretariat and served as head of the National Task Force for the Acceleration and Development of New Renewable Energy and Energy Conservation. Bapak William completed his master's degree in transportation engineering at the University of New South Wales, Australia, and his doctorate in transport geography at the University of Canterbury, New Zealand. Each speaker will be given 6 to 7 minutes to deliver their presentation, and that will be the starting point of our discussion. Now, without further ado, allow me to invite our first speaker, Ibu Hayati, who will set the tone by discussing Jakarta's vision and policies on sustainable transport. Ibu Sri, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Chandra Sugarda. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, Ms. Chandra Sugarda, Mr. William, Mr. Yoga, and also Mr. Safrin, the head of Transportation Department of Jakarta, Provincial Government, and all ITDP team, and also all participants of Mobilize Jakarta Technical Session 2021. On behalf of Jakarta people, Governor of Jakarta expresses honor to receive the 2021 Sustainable Transport Award. The achievement was the culmination of years of groundbreaking works and transformation by the city. We convey our gratitude to the ITDP and Mobilize team for the opportunity to be part of the 2021 Mobilize Jakarta Summit Series. On this occasion, I will present some examples of the summary transformation of Jakarta in conveying a sustainable mobility through integrated transport system. As a capital city, Jakarta is home for 10.1 million people that always welcome an additional 88 million trips per day. With an area of 661 kilometers square and surrounded by satellite cities, long-distance commute of more than 30 until 40 kilometers are common in Greater Jakarta. This urban sprawl development has forced people to commute daily and the tendency of the use of motorized private vehicle. It results in a number of challenges such as congestion and also air pollution. And to tackle the issues, as well as to accommodate the existence of this mobility pattern, the city has invested in high-quality public transport, such as integration of regular buses into the BRT system and the operation of MRT and LRT corridor in 2020. However, the provision of high-quality public transport is not the only way to encourage more people to shift into the available public transport. Shifting the paradigm, we started to address the need of people. Our development are focusing on people's needs instead of the vehicle needs. In the last few years, strong commitment and political will has been demonstrated by the City of Jakarta on prioritizing the people-oriented mobility. As we see in this slide, in February 2020, right before the pandemic hit, Transjakarta BRT ridership reached 1 million daily passengers, and it has about 76.3% coverage area of Jakarta and 81.9% population of Jakarta covered by the services at the moment. Furthermore, Mikrotrans or the microbuses services are introduced to the system. It helps to leverage the services and it contributes about 20% of total passengers in the Transjakarta system. The scheme allows the existing angkot operators to be part of the Transjakarta system by having multi-year contract. Next slide, we'll talk about mass transit transportation. In April 2019, MRT Jakarta started commercially operating the 16-kilometer rail system from South to Central Jakarta and will be expanded up north by 5.8 kilometers for phase 2A and a further 6 kilometers for phase 2B. And then plan to operate in 2027. And in April 2019, also LRT Jakarta started to the first 5.8 kilometers to integrate residential and commercial area from North to East Jakarta. It is ready to be expanded around 20 kilometers more by 2027. In addition to the progress that has been made, the city government of Jakarta committed to continue the effort on providing high-quality public transport across the greater Jakarta area. And then to encourage more people using public transportation, first and last mile connectivity is part of the key element of the passenger's journey. People-oriented mobility has been addressed by the city by providing prominent pedestrian facilities. In 2019, is about 87 kilometers of sidewalk were improved. It includes 41 kilometers within 400 meters of Transjakarta BRT system station. Starting from 63 kilometers of trial cycle lanes in 2019. And then by 2021, Jakarta has implemented the first 11-kilometer protected cycle lane corridor in Sudirman Tamrin area to improve cycling safety, security, and convenience, also as a response due to the tenfold increase of cyclists in the city. And on larger scale, Jakarta plans to extend the cycle lane network by 500 kilometers until 2030. And to address physical seamless integration and provide inclusive access for all, a number of intermodal stations have been upgraded. The purposes of the integration are to ensure the seamless transfer between modes, direct connection among the BRT, commuter rail, and also MRT station. And in 2020, there were 4 stations upgraded, and it was followed by another 5 stations done in this year. And completing the physical integration under the Jaklingko scheme, tariff integration, service operation, and data information are integrated in one Jaklingko system. The tariff integration is being developed to allow the free transport penalties among the available modes, as well as incorporating all the existing payment system into one Jaklingko system. Jaklingko is an ecosystem of transportation, use the concept of transport demand management with the implementation of push and pull strategies. Those transformations will work well if they are supported by the push strategies where we are working at the moment. Parking strategies and policies have been drafted. The LEZ initiative has been piloted and ERP has been analyzed to be implemented. To conclude, this progress was only possible through collaboration between the city, technical expert, civil society group, and ultimately its citizen. The strong collaborative spirit that the city has forged over the years has become a key driver in transforming Jakarta into a sustainable city. Lastly, I hope that today's event can be a platform to inspire and elevate our perspective on sustainable transport in Jakarta. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ibu Sri, for your comprehensive input and information. And our next speaker will discuss progress and roles of Jaklingko and Transjakarta. Please join me in welcoming Bapak Yoga Adiwinarto. Pak Yoga, you have the mic.
Thank you, Chandra. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, dear distinguished panelists, Ibu Sri, Pak William, Pak Safrin, the head of the Transport Agency, ITDP team. I see many familiar faces in the audience, as well as the all participants from Cape Town, Joburg, Pretoria, a lot of people from around the world. Thank you for ITDP for inviting Transjakarta, as well as myself to speak on this very valuable event. It's been it's such an honor to be back at Mobilize and also to speak to represent Jakarta as well as the Transjakarta. So just to follow up on the integration through the Jaklingko as the Transjakarta case study. So just to give you, because many of you come from the different part of the world, so just to give you a brief introduction of what Transjakarta or who is Transjakarta. So we're basically one of the BRT network in Southeast Asia or Asia or maybe in the world, with 388 kilometer corridor length with 13 corridors. We have 3,500 fleets spread across different types of vehicles, and we basically manage 22 operators, of which 11 of them are cooperatives. So this is basically the part of my presentation where I will focus on. I'll give you some ideas on in terms of the ridership. During the pandemic last year, we managed to carry about 130 million passengers in a year. Our record is actually about 240 million passengers per year, or the highest that we reach is 1 million ridership per day. We run 153 routes, and then we do have different types of services, like this BRT, the Mikrotrans, the integrated service, feeder, and then others. Next. So we basically, the idea is that as Bu Sri mentioned before, the Mikrotrans integration, or what we call the microbus in general terms, or some of you are still using the word paratransit or informal transit. So the the intervention or the improvement that we did from 2017 till now, we basically formalized this so-called paratransit into really formal transit, where they become our operators. And as a result, as Bu Sri mentioned before, the coverage of Transjakarta in 2017 from 42% of the Jakarta area, become 81.9%. So this is basically just to give you some technical explanation. This the 81.9% is the coverage area, within 500-meter radius from our bus stops and also BRT stations. So we make sure that The goal is to achieve 91%, and we hope to achieve that in the next year. And again, I mean, just to give you some ideas on why we do this very rapidly, because from 2017 to 2021, we managed to get 57% of our fleet that I mentioned before, 3,500 fleet consists of this microbuses, where the total is about 2,000 vehicles out of this 3,500 vehicles. So this is basically a huge leap of the coverage. Next slide, please. So, just why we do this, why the government, do this. Actually, it's not us. We basically get mandate by the government, especially by the governor himself, who wants to make sure that affordable, transport, and also reachable public transport, not just, some, cheap quality public transport, but, the governor himself, Mr. Anies Baswedan, he wants to have, affordable and reachable high quality public transport. So not only just, strengthening the backbone or, the main trunk line of the BRT, but, the basically the first mile and the last mile, which is basically connected by this microbuses, has to be covered. Because I mean, if you've already been to Jakarta, many of Jakarta roads, we do have a lot of high, like quite wide road, big roads, but many of people actually live sort of in the residential areas where they have to walk about 1 to 2 kilometers to reach the BRT stations or corridor. So this kind of feeder works perfectly to match our BRT network integration. So, first is that we have to make sure that the affordable and reachable quality public transport is there. And the second thing is that we want to ensure also that, we want to collaborate with the existing operators, empower them of the transport industries. And there's also a mandate and, the keyword, basically, developed by the governor and also the government. Collaboration is the keyword. We want to make sure we also empower them. So the message is not to replace them, but to integrate, to work together with them. So this is the key message, that the integration is not to replace them. It's basically to work, together. So a simple thing, how we actually do it, simple, like, we manage with the BRT, with the contract, we set the service standard, we set also the payment terms, the fee per kilometer, and also the the sort of like the technical requirement and specification, for the Mikrotrans. So yeah, what we did, like basically we transformed the Mikrotrans towards better services. Just to give you also, what is the impact? I mean, coverage is one thing, but the other thing is that the ridership itself, 2017, just before the ridership, before the Mikrotrans integrated, Transjakarta's ridership is about, I think, less than 400,000 passengers per day. And then 2020, just before the pandemic, we managed to reach 1 million. So, I mean, from 400,000 to 1 million within 4 years, I think that's quite high number. So that's basically thanks to this integration with the feeder or Mikrotrans services. Next. Yeah, just to give you again some highlight of what are the changes. So the payment method that before it's we have to pay them by cash, for passengers to pay cash to get the ride. Now it's actually free and cashless using the card. So the card, you have to pay for the card, but every time you tap on the Mikrotrans, so we have all the card reader installed in the vehicles. But then it's free for passengers, so it's basically subsidized fully by the government. Random stop become you have to stop at the bus stop. Also with the scheduled operation, we do also have in terms of safety and security aspect. We ensure that the only qualified requirement fleets can operate, and the other thing is also we put the GPS and CCTV in every vehicles. Next. Yeah, I'm going to skip this one because I think it's already been presented with Bu Sri before regarding the Jaklingko payment scheme. So the other thing that I would like just to give you some highlight is the physical integration and facilities. I think Willie will also mention after this. But the idea is that we from 2017 onwards, many integration, physical integration between Transjakarta, within an MRT. If you can see the bottom left, the facility, what we call the JS way, integration. So we integrate the MRT and Transjakarta. So where before it was basically the most horrible place. The governor's award actually for this. This is actually the best example of the failure, the integration. So we basically managed to fix all the integration to work together between MRT and Transjakarta. Integration also with the bike facilities. We install a lot of bike racks, as well as the the integration with the LRT in other places. Next. And then this is just as a promotional material. So we do have many further projects on the pipeline. So again, the key of integration, physical. So at least this next year, we will have 4 integrate BRT rail station. The construction will begin in 2022, and then the electrification process. Also, we will have starting the pilot project of the electric vehicles. Starting with the 30 fleet. But the idea is that to have the goal 100% of the vehicle of Transjakarta by electric by 2030, and then the 14th corridor or corridor 14 will be launched also with cooperation with the Jakarta government, hopefully in 2022. So that's pretty much all. Thank you for listening, and I look forward for the discussion. Thank you, Chandra.
Yes, thank you, Pak Yoga, for providing more detailed information about the Transjakarta's role in the integration system and its achievement to date. Also, its future projects. It's very interesting. And last but not least, I will invite our third speaker, Bapak William Sabandar, who will provide information about MRT Jakarta's strategic role in the integration scheme. Pak William, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chandra. Greetings from Jakarta. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Chandra, okay. Good evening, everybody. Greeting from Jakarta. I think my job became easier following the presentation of Bu Sri Hayati and Pak Yoga just recently. I would like just to build on the Bu's presentation before by perspective Jaklingko from MRT Jakarta perspectives. So let me start with showing how the MRT Jakarta after the launching of MRT, first line of MRT in 2019. This is the network of MRT Jakarta, which you can see the red line was actually from the south to the center of Jakarta, which is 16 kilometers in operations right now. And then we continue to build the phase 2 to the north and preparing for the phase 3 and phase 4, which is actually the east-west corridor in the middle of Jakarta, in the center of Jakarta, and in the south of Jakarta. So we are hoping to complete about 50 kilometers of MRT line by 2030. So the coming of MRT Jakarta, it actually creates a new culture for the people of Jakarta in 2019. I think one of the new habits was actually with the on-time performance of the MRT Jakarta. It creates new cultures, people queuing, the cleaning facilities, how people become very disciplined with and very responsible using a new facility. And this is actually something that we are very proud as Jakartans and an Indonesian by enjoying new facilities and transport can elevate itself into a new way of modern transportation in Jakarta. More than that, we have the new cultures of how we work together with our friends from disabled communities. Yeah, well, we work together. This is I like to use the idea of community engagement, starting to engage people with disabilities from the planning, from the design process, and involving them through the operations of MRT Jakarta. So for example, you can see the use of MRT Jakarta now is very friendly for people with disabilities, people, you can see parking for disabled, yeah, supporting facilities, yeah, the toilet systems, the spatial lanes, the spatial space for those with disabilities, and more than that is actually how to engage them in all the process while we are continuing to operate to improve our service for all the people of Jakarta. Also, the integration is the key words of how Jaklingko is being promoted in Jakarta. And for sure, MRT Jakarta together with Transjakarta become integral part of it. One of these is actually working on integration, we call it Jalan Jakarta, which was actually improving the streets, people walking, especially for children and women. This is one of the examples. We are working in 1 or 2 stations in the south of Jakarta. This is working together with ITDP on facilitating the walking of people. So they don't need to compete with cars as before. They have to always, people walking always needs to compete with cars. Now they have their dedicated line, using MRT, using hyperrail, but also by walking. Jakarta has turned into a city which is very friendly for biking, and MRT adopting that policy and the new trend by accommodating all kind of bicycles into MRT. So there is for sure along the line of MRT you can see bicycle lines, but you can also take your bike, folded or unfolded bike, into MRT, and then we provide a special space for people riding bicycles if they want to ride an MRT. Now, it's not just for transport. MRT is more than just transport. It's a catalyst for urban transformations. So we turn 13 stations, or the first 13 stations, into a new townships. The transit-oriented development, as explained by Ibu Sri Hayati before, was actually work together with other transport operators, but also developers on rebuilding an area, which is what was the presentation before, moving from Jakarta, which was heavily dependent on private car, to a city that starts to rely on the public transport. And then we need to create a station which is very much friendly to people who commute, people who travels, and using all kind of public transport, including walking and bicycles. And this is the settings that what we work and trying to combine all interaction of people, creating third space for improving urban activity space. You can see some people music, Transjakarta, people's riding, and in the stations you can see the lifestyle business. This is following the pandemic. We are actually
I'm sorry, Pak William. I think we heard somebody's voice. Maybe people who are not speaking could mute their mic, please. Go ahead, Pak William. Sorry for that.
We turn some of our back house station because of the COVID, and there is a new trend, people working from home. Now you can also start working from MRT. You ride public transport, you go to the stations of MRT, and then you can find co-working space, you can find facilities for working in the stations. This is a kind of going into the lifestyle business. Now, COVID-19 provides us to transform ourselves. We call it transforming business beyond normal. There are 3 elements of transforming business beyond normal. And the key of this is actually promoting the lifestyle through integration and collaboration. This is the essence of Jaklingko. The business beyond normal comprises of 3 things. Number 1 is beyond ridership. It's not just about getting the numbers, but getting the quality. And we are talking about the lifestyle. The second one is beyond physical mobility. We promote also digital mobility to promote MRT Jakarta as urban platformer. And beyond transport network, it's not just about infrastructure expansion, but to functions MRT and other public transport as city regenerator. Now, in terms of network provider, you can see, as explained before, integrated public transport. This is the one. You can now turn Jakarta into a very friendly city. Yeah, public transport. Jakarta is less traffic now. It moves out from the 10 most congested city in the world. So this is a good news. If you come to Jakarta, you will see these kind of things. We improve the stations, the integration, the collaboration with all transport operators. We do it. Yeah, and the first time you see this graph, this map, where you can see the interconnections between public transport happening in Jakarta, not before. The second one is we are promoting what we call it digital mobility. There is an integration on ticketing systems, the mobile apps application that we develop, including or involving all the lifestyle applications that people can enjoy while, of course, riding your public transport. Number three is actually, this is important, is actually promoting digital mobility and city regenerators. You're rebuilding the city along the MRT network. Yeah. While building the network, you are also rebuilding the cities. Yeah. Transit-oriented development, we change it, and people with all the activities to promote social equity, environmental sustainability, and quality of life plus economic regenerations. Now, this is something that's happening now. One of the transit-oriented development that you can see now. The Transjakarta, the bus rapid transit, but also we develop some facilities, the transport hub, the people to read, the library, and also the interconnections among all the public transport that we start to see that improves the integrations and collaborations among public transport. I think this is all the progress that we would be happy, we are happy to share with you. And very much we look forward to collaborate with all other cities and for sure sharing knowledge and our experience from Jakarta, but also hoping you that one time you can also visit Jakarta and see all the development in terms of how the cities with Jaklingko programs moving into a very friendly cities, sustainable cities, greener cities, and smart cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, William. Your presentation on MRT's role and strategic actions, including the involvement of the disability community, did complete information about the integrated transport scheme in Jakarta. Now, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have now arrived at the discussion and the Q&A session, and I invite you to post your questions in the Q&A box that is available on the lower part of your Zoom screen. I've seen some questions already, but let me start with posing the first question to the panelists. Clearly, Ibu Sri, Pak Yoga, and Pak William, clearly in order for this integration to happen, a strong commitment and collaboration between the government and operators have been established. So my first question to all of you is, what is your starting point in taking this bold move? Who wants to start first? Pak Yoga, maybe?
Yes. Again, I mean, we as the, so just to clarify, I think it hasn't been clarified clearly that us, Transjakarta and MRT, we are basically a city-owned company. You know, we're 100% owned by the city government of Jakarta. So what we do is basically, you know, following up a mandate by the government. I think the you know, the idea that again, this is really a classic keyword, you know, the political will. I mean, all of those things that you know, we mentioned, you know, either myself, Bu Sri, and also Pak Willy, you know, wouldn't have happened if the, you know, the political commitment is not there. You know, if the governor himself, you know, didn't have you know, such a great ideas and also, you know, good execution and also, you know, strong will. I think this is really the key. You know, he didn't do it, you know, overnight, and you know, we actually managed to follow, you know, his lead, you know, step by step. So all of the success that we achieve right now, you know, is really a result of, you know, maybe, you know, more than, you know, 4 years of a very you know, long road. But I would have to say that, you know, the first, again, I cannot emphasize this, you know, emphasize this enough, but this is really you know, how a mayor or a governor, you know, vision, you know, with the strong political, you know, commitment, And the other thing is also, the collaboration with many stakeholders. I mentioned, the industries is one of the stakeholders that we manage, but I think, the NGOs, also, the civil societies play a different, a very a significant role, especially like IDDP, has been assisting City of Jakarta as well as the Transjakarta as well as the MRT. That's from,
Yes.
from me.
Thank you, Pak Yoga. Ibu Sri? You are still on mute. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Bu Chandra. Maybe I just add some sentences about the. However, we already initiated our big scheme, started with shifting our paradigm of the road users. Our top priority is the pedestrian, and followed by the non-motorized transport and zero or low emission vehicle. I think this is the starting point for us to, to change the paradigm of the people. For example, next year we will build around 242 kilometers of bicycle lane, and also we fully committed until 2030 to change all of our public transport vehicle to be electrical based. I think this is our commitment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Sri. Pak William, your starting point.
Starting point is the leadership, I think. Yeah, it's when the governor changed the model for putting people first, putting public transport first. Then I think that that inspired the city to change. But for sure, this is not enough. There is a need of orchestrations, of collaborations, and what actually I see in Jakarta was actually with the great participation of the community, and this is really amazing. As I told you about the once the MRT is coming, and people are really changed the behavior of using public transport. The integration with bicycles, the integration with people walking, respect to disabilities. I think this is all the starting point. That if you want to change the city, this is all the ingredients you need. The combination between community and the leadership of the city.
Good question. Good answer, Pak William. Thank you very much, all panelists. And we have quite a few questions about the subsidies for the fare. How is the budgeting, the subsidies handled by the government's budgeting? So Amy Gautier, for example, asked about for the fare. A lot of cities struggles with going cashless, and how does Jakarta handle the need for people to pay a cash fare or maybe only able to buy one ticket at a time? You did mention that it is subsidized, and Sergio Gonzalez also asked, what is the fare in US dollar per trip, and how much is subsidy, and where does that come from on that budget for the subsidy? Maybe Ibu Sri can answer first.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe to answer about the fare, I think Mr. Yoga and Mr. Willy will explain. But I just want to tell you about the government spending for public transport subsidies. For now, it's about $345 million a year for MRT, Transjakarta, and also LRT.
345, Ibu.
$345 million, or like 5 or 6 billion rupiahs a year. Maybe for the fare, I think Pak Yoga and Pak Willy will explain about the fare and our plan to to integrate also about the tariff and fare. Pak Yoga and Pak Willy maybe will explain.
Yes, Pak Yoga.
Yeah, thank you. So again, just to give you first, I think the fare in US dollar, we have a range of fare. So the minimum fare is $0. This is basically free for passengers, and also the maximum is 20 cents. Just to give you a hint, if you want to come to Jakarta, you can ride Transjakarta, for 24 hours with only 20 cents for the whole day, So basically, there's a cheat in our, loophole in our system, because it's kind of like a flat fare, and also within the system is, but for the BRT. The other thing is, I would like also to give a context that the figure that Ibu Sri mentioned before, it comes to 5 to 6% of the city budget. I mean, this is actually quite a generous amount of money. I mean, that's actually 5%. We have also to this city budget consists of like the salary of the the officials, all the construction of the many things, the schools and everything. So to allocate 5% just to subsidize, this is basically outside the infrastructure itself. I think it's quite tremendous. In our case, that subsidy itself is I think it accounts to because of the pandemic, one of the factor, now it comes to 60 to 70% of our operating costs. So this 20 cents that I mentioned, that's basically the fare that the revenue that we come from the the remaining 30 to 40% of the total operation costs that you have to cover. The other thing that I would like to also mention, yes, we do have quite a high number of subsidy, but again, this zero rupiah or $0 free fare, that accounts to about 40% of our passengers, with this Mikrotrans feeder and everything. So that's why this for this Mikrotrans, the passengers are fully subsidized by the city to ensure that affordability for the public is there. Last thing, I think to enforce people to use the cashless. I have to say that the pandemic in a way help us to make a bold move in 2020, that we stop all the cash because of the transmission of the virus and everything. So the fear of transmitting it a bit further. So we only use the cash, sorry, the card. But the tradition of using the card, which can be used also at MRT, for MRT, for urban railways, and also buying drinks at your convenience store. So the penetration of the uses of the card is already high in Jakarta alone. So I think it's not really quite difficult for us to ensure that card usage in public transport. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Yoga. And Pak William, same question to you, but probably adding a little bit of information about the funding for the physical integration of MRT station with Transjakarta, for example. How are the costs shared?
Well, some of the costs for sure come from the government. There is a corporate actions between Transjakarta and the example mentioned by Pak Yoga before, in integrating MRT and Transjakarta's line. Yeah, for sure some funding coming from the corporations, but also government provide subsidy or provide fund on this. I should say that Jakarta government has been very generous in terms of giving subsidy. Pak Yoga mentioned about you can ride public transport in Jakarta with 0 rupiah, yeah, which is actually 100% being subsidized. In terms of MRT Jakarta, you can see, although it's actually compared to Transjakarta's tariff, MRT was quite high, yeah, but it's 70% was actually subsidized by the government. So this is something that we are now working on, trying to manage the balance between how much the government should subsidize and how much communities should pay by increasing the quality of service. If you can improve the quality of service, you might bring the tariffs good, and then that will create some fiscal space for the government to open the new lines, yeah, and then might be to expand in terms of for example, by the new Transjakarta's buses. But this is something that started, yeah, I think long before which political commitment of the city in public transport is very high. Jakarta, you can see, and clearly you can see in Transjakarta. You can see now on how the subsidized, yeah, the numbers that Ibu Sri Hayati mentions in terms of the total budget of subsidy is actually 10% of government budget, yearly government budget of Jakarta, which means how Jakarta government giving subsidy, which implied to the sense that they want that public transport is very good. But this cannot standalone policies. There is a need for integrated policies coming together from all governments, from private sectors, from community to really have that we need to put public transport first. So it's a concerted effort by all stakeholders. My point is actually we need to find balance. How much subsidy needs to be given, responsibility of stakeholders, and how community should enjoy the service with a fair system.
Okay, thank you, Pak William. And next question is from Gopinath Menon. I hope I pronounce your name correctly. The question is, who specifies the quality of service standards of these microbuses serving Transjakarta? Are they enforced, or maybe Pak Yoga can answer that?
Yeah, sure. So it is the government, which represented by the City Transport Agency, that specify what we call the minimum service standard. So this is really important for us. That's basically the basic, for us to to operate and also provide the service. So every time we fail to deliver such service, the City Transport Agency, is quite harsh, I have to say. I mean, the head of transport agency is here, so I have to say that, it's very harsh to punish us in a way, financially. But that's basically to ensure that the level of service, is not deteriorating, because to put 5% of the city budget, as a subsidy, like they have to ensure that they get something in return. So I mean, not them, but like the city of Jakarta gets something good in return. So to contrary to popular belief that the subsidy will create less sustainability, no, it's not, because I mean, we have also, I mean, MRT and us, we do have other things also, with the non-fare box revenue. So revenue from other income, from advertisings and commercials and everything like that. So I think this really the key that to ensure that yes, there is subsidy provided by the government to ensure that the high quality of services and also affordable services is there. But as a company, as a private entity owned by the government, we also are encouraged to ensure that the revenue gained by the other areas is also expanded. I think MRT did a good job also in expanding and also connecting it with the TOD concept, so they get additional revenue from that.
Thank you, Pak Yoga. I think, unfortunately, I'm looking at the time now and we only have 2 minutes left, so we don't have more time for more questions. But I saw that we still have many questions that needs to be answered, and the participants are very keen to know the answer, and hopefully we can gather some more time later on the later date and have more question and answer session about this one. Now, before we conclude, I would like to give opportunities for our distinguished panelists to deliver their closing remarks. I will start with Ibu Hayati for that. Ibu?
Thank you very much, Bu Chandra. When we talk about transportation, I think integration is the key. And then this event, I would like to talk to everybody, especially in Jakarta, to active involved to all policy, especially in transportation. Like I mentioned before, that civil society is also be the part of our important stakeholder to make all regulation in Jakarta. I think collaboration is the most important in Jakarta. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ibu Sri. And next, Pak Yoga, your closing remarks.
Thank you. Yeah, I think in the next minute or so, I'll just have to say that, look, I mean, all the examples that we shown, all the achievement that we managed to achieve up to these days, doesn't really, I mean, it also shows that Jakarta is not perfect. I mean, we've been learning from other cities as well, from other cities, from like Bogota, Johannesburg and others. But we have this strong political will to ensure that all this learning process is continuous. So it's not like we failed and then we just stop. So I think it's really a long-term commitment, not only by the government but also from the people, from the city council is really important. And again, as we we learn over the years, now we also open our doors to ensure that if other cities want to learn, we welcome them with open heart. And hopefully after the pandemic is over, there'll be so many people that to come to visit Jakarta, and I'm pretty sure that Ibu Sri, Pak Willy, as well as Transjakarta as a company, we want to welcome you and also give you some city tour to ensure that some of the examples that we did can also be replicated in your cities. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Pak Yoga. And Pak Willy, your closing remarks.
I like Pak Yoga using city tour, and hopefully when you come to Jakarta, we can invite you to see the cities. Yeah, a lot of tourist destinations. Yeah, but Sustainable Transport Awards has provided Jakarta with a great opportunity to expose the achievement that Jakarta has had over the last 3 years in transforming their transport systems, yeah, from let's say one of the most congested city in the world. Yeah, I always 3-4 years ago in my presentation, I'm not proud of Jakarta because yes, we are number 3 or number 4 most congested city in the world. What happened now after the collaboration, after the integrations, Sri has just mentioned, this is the key words. Yeah, it turns now that it's a friendly city. The city that people from all backgrounds have place, and public transport become the place for interactions, social activities can happen. Now, this is the time for continue the transformations, and we would like to share this progress and hope other city can also learn from the experience of Jakarta, not just from the good experience, also learn from the mistake that we had made in the past. So hopefully this event will continue, and we are committed to share the good experience with all stakeholders from all over the world to see the progress of Jakarta. Going together, and then we collaborate in achieving the good public transport for all city in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak William. And I agree that all participants should take Pak Yoga and Pak William's offer maybe for a city tour in the near future in Jakarta. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes our discussion in this webinar. Thank you kindly for our distinguished panelists for the fruitful discussion and for the valuable lessons on integration of public transport in the capital city of Jakarta. And to commemorate the victory of this year's Sustainable Transport Award, the City of Jakarta, in collaboration with ITDP and TUMI, released a document summarizing the transport integration system. The document is titled Lessons Learned from Jakarta's Journey to Integrated and Resilient Transport System. This document will soon be published through www.itdp.org. Thank you for your participation and have a good rest of the week. Now, back to Iwona.
Thank you so much, Chandra. Thank you so much, panelists, for this really, really wonderful session today. I really appreciate it. And also, of course, thank you to all the attendees for joining the event. I encourage you to visit the ITDB's website for our latest releases. And as the moderator mentioned, we're expecting for the publication to be available for download very, very soon. So you can read more about the transformative process in sustainable urban mobility in Jakarta. So please stay tuned.